The girl was surrounded by slithering snakes, but luckily, she was rescued. It all began when they accidentally entered a forest, the territory of giant snakes. There, they had to face the king of the snakes, a massive serpent that had existed for a very long time. In this dangerous situation, what will they do? Fight back or run away? Let's find out together. The group led by Kim was venturing into the mysterious deep forest, a place known as the domain of snakes. They were everywhere, but the most terrifying of all was the Snake King, a massive serpent weighing several tons, the most ferocious in the world. Despite this, the group showed no fear and recklessly entered the forest to hunt snakes, completely unaware of the imminent danger. Following the map, they continued deeper into the forest. Before long, they discovered a snake nest. Two of the teammates were overjoyed, believing this trip would make them rich, and hastily stuffed all the captured snakes into their bags. However, before they could celebrate, the long-haired man, while carrying the heavy sacks back to the boat, suddenly spotted a giant snake ahead. Before he could react, the monstrous creature lunged at him and swallowed him whole. At the same time, the skinny man also met a tragic fate, caught and devoured by the enormous serpent. Kim witnessed everything but remained indifferent, calmly watching as the skinny man was completely swallowed by the Snake King. But just then, the giant snake suddenly seemed afraid of something, hastily ending its hunt. It turned out that an even more terrifying creature had appeared, the legendary Snake King. Meanwhile elsewhere, a circus troupe led by Bart was en route to Thailand for a tour when they accidentally wandered into the deep forest. Before long, their path was blocked by a massive boulder. To continue their journey, they decided to use explosives to clear the way, unaware that inside lay a snake den. After a loud explosion, thousands of snakes were blown onto the boat, throwing everyone into a panic. The serpents slithered everywhere, clinging to each person. Some were lucky enough to find safe shelter, but Alice was not fast enough and was entangled by the snakes. Fortunately, Andy rushed in just in time to save Alice, while Lana quickly used a high-pressure hose to wash the snakes away, rescuing the entire group. Meanwhile, Bart hid in the restroom and accidentally discovered a snake on the ceiling. When he tried to drive it away, he unintentionally broke a wooden plank, causing an entire nest of snakes to fall down. In panic, Bart slipped and fell into the river through the toilet. Terrified, he clenched his glutes and tightened his core, swimming desperately toward the shore. But just as he breathed a sigh of relief, a cobra appeared in front of him, smiling menacingly. Fortunately, at that very moment, Kim arrived just in time to save him. At the same time, Andy suddenly collapsed to the ground in pain. Lana noticed something crawling out of his ear. Kim quickly used blood to lure it out, only to discover that it was a baby snake that had somehow crawled inside without anyone noticing. Despite Kim saving them multiple times, Lana remained suspicious of him. After all, he had been bitten by venomous snakes before but showed no signs of harm. Just how many times must someone be bitten to become immune to venom? To ensure their safety, she advised Bart to find a suitable place to drop Kim off the boat. That night, while the captain was casting bait for fishing, his dog was suddenly dragged into the water by an unseen force. Shortly after, strange bubbles appeared on the surface, followed by an immense force that yanked the fishing rod, pulling the captain down into the depths. Before the group could even grasp what was happening, the animals in the forest began to flee in terror. Kim realized that the giant snake had arrived. He frantically reeled in the fishing line, leaving everyone confused, but the colossal serpent was not one to give up easily. It thrashed violently, its immense strength so overwhelming that it flung Kim into the water. However, he refused to let go, clinging stubbornly to the fishing line. Waiting for the perfect moment, he swiftly plunged his weapon into the monster, sending it into a furious rage. Enraged, the giant snake coiled tightly around Kim and the boat, dragging everything down into the water. While the group believed Kim was as good as dead, he miraculously climbed back onto the boat alive. But at that moment, their fear reached new heights. The giant snake had emerged right behind them. It spat out the captain's lifeless body, causing the monk to wet himself in terror before fleeing at full speed. Yet the monstrous serpent was relentless, chasing after them with its massive jaws wide open, ready to make them its next meal. Just then, Kim launched a sudden attack, drawing the snake's wrath toward himself. But he was no easy prey. He skillfully dodged its strikes with a few simple maneuvers. Still, the giant snake refused to give up. It slithered through every corner of the boat, searching for its target, leaving everyone too terrified to even breathe. Eventually, Andy and the unlucky kid were discovered. In sheer panic, they ran so frantically that the boy's pants fell off. Desperate, he rushed toward Lana, but the snake remained determined, smashing through a glass door to lunge at them. Luckily, Andy blocked its path with a large ceramic jar. Disoriented, the snake thrashed wildly. Just as it shattered the jar, it fell straight into a trap Kim had set. However, at that exact moment, the boat suddenly caught fire. Though Kim was unwilling to abandon the fight, he had no choice but to retreat. As the flames spread, everyone scrambled to jump into the water to escape. Though they had survived, their only means of transportation, the boat, was now reduced to ashes. The most pressing issue now was finding a way to escape this place. Seeing this, Kim revealed that his own boat was about a 2-day walk away. If all went well, they could use it to leave. Although Lana still didn't fully trust Kim, Alice had been stung by a wasp. Without antibiotics within 48 hours, she wouldn't survive, and Kim's boat had the necessary medicine. With no other choice, the group reluctantly decided to follow him. As they stopped to rest, the giant snake suddenly caught their scent and lunged forward, snatching the young boy. Lana and Andy grabbed onto him tightly, but the snake refused to let go. Fortunately, in the nick of time, Kim intervened, saving the boy from certain death. However, none of them realized that at that moment, a parasite had silently entered Zhang's body. That night, the group decided to take shelter in a cave to rest. At that moment, Kim recalled how he had survived his previous encounter with the Snake King, by hiding inside a coffin just in time. The coffin, however, had fallen into the river and unknowingly drifted toward Lana's group. Seeing Kim constantly holding onto his map, Bart grew suspicious. It turned out that Kim's true purpose for coming here was to hunt the Snake King, the largest and most valuable snake in the world. If he could capture it, he would have enough money to last a lifetime. Hearing this, Bart's eyes lit up and he eagerly begged Kim to let him join in on the hunt for riches. Kim warned him that the Snake King was at the top of the food chain in this place. It wouldn't even spare its own kind. But rather than being afraid, Bart claimed that he and the Snake King were quite alike. As it turned out, he never actually intended to take his circus troupe to Thailand for performances. His real plan was to trick and sell them instead. For money, he was willing to do anything. Hearing this, Kim was very pleased. The next morning, the monk woke up to find Zhang missing and hurried outside to search for him. Unexpectedly, Zhang had completely lost his senses, plunging his face into the stream and drinking water frantically. The monk tried to stop him, but it was in vain. Remembering Kim's words, he realized that Zhang had been infected with a parasite. Like praying mantises, once infected, they would desperately seek water and drown themselves. Before the monk could process the situation, the giant snake suddenly lunged forward and dragged Zhang away. Helpless, the monk could do nothing but watch. The group had lost yet another member, but there was no time for grief. They had to keep moving. Ahead lay a river, forcing them to cross. However, as they waded through the water, Andy suddenly noticed something lurking beneath the surface. Everyone froze in fear. A massive shadow slithered through them. Just as they thought they were safe, the cunning snake suddenly attacked the monk, wrapping tightly around him. Lana couldn't stand by and do nothing, so she fought against her fear and rushed forward to help, but she was too weak, completely powerless against the creature. In the end, she could only watch helplessly as the monk was crushed, his bones shattering. The group was now down to 6 people. After overcoming countless obstacles, they finally reached Kim's boat. Keeping his word, he handed over the antibiotics to Alice. Everyone rejoiced, believing they could finally go home. But at that moment, Kim and Bart revealed their true colors. They quickly overpowered the 4 others, planning to use the boy and Andy as bait to lure out the Snake King. With no other choice, Alice offered herself as a bargaining chip. Faced with such a seductive woman, Kim didn't hesitate and cut her free. But just as he let his guard down, Alice suddenly attacked. Unfortunately, she didn't know how to use a gun, allowing Kim to regain control effortlessly. Just as he was about to strike her down, Lana broke free and rushed to her aid. The 2 women teamed up to fight Kim, but at that moment, a giant snake lunged at Andy, its foul-smelling jaws wide open, ready to swallow him whole. Luckily, another snake suddenly attacked Bart, who had been lying in ambush. A trap was triggered, allowing Andy and the boy to escape. At the same time, despite Xiaolan and Alice joining forces, they were still at a disadvantage. Just as Kim was about to kill Alice, Lana managed to knock him unconscious. The 2 quickly freed Andy and the boy, but just then, Kim woke up, his eyes filled with murderous intent as he advanced toward them. Before he could strike, the giant snake dragged him away. However, during the struggle, Alice was fatally wounded and didn't survive. The group was devastated, but they had no choice but to move on. Yet, at that very moment, Andy was suddenly hit with a tranquilizer dart. It turned out that Kim wasn't dead. He had killed the giant snake and escaped. Once again, the 3 survivors became his bait. Kim swiftly set traps all around. As expected, it wasn't long before the giant snakes caught the scent and arrived. But just then, they suddenly became frightened and fled. One stubborn snake that refused to retreat was immediately devoured by the Snake King. After eliminating its competition, the true ruler of the jungle wasted no time and lunged toward the 3 defenseless humans. Seeing his opportunity, Kim quickly deployed his net. But the Snake King was not so easily trapped. With a single powerful thrash, it broke free. Now fully enraged, it turned all its fury toward Kim. Taking advantage of the chaos, the boy bit through his ropes. Just as the Snake King made a meal of Kim, the boy managed to cut himself loose and freed the other two. They had no time to hesitate, they ran for their lives. But misfortune struck again. Andy was bitten on the leg by the Snake King. Lana quickly intervened, forcing the beast to release him in pain. The three of them continued running, but Andy's injury slowed him down. With no other option, Lana decided to sacrifice herself by leading the Snake King away. However, she accidentally fell into one of Kim's traps, suffering serious injuries. Desperately, she hid inside a hollow tree, trying to hold out. But the monster was not so easily fooled. It coiled tightly around the tree, shaking it violently. Eventually, she lost her balance and fell. At the last moment, Andy grabbed a wooden branch and charged at the beast. Lana quickly joined in the fight. As the Snake King thrashed in pain, the three of them made a run for it. Thinking fast, Lana came up with a plan. She lured the Snake King into one of Kim's traps. The rope tightened, finally putting an end to the Snake King. At last, it was all over. The three survivors boarded the boat and set sail for home, and with that the movie came to an end. Goodbye, and see you again.